Right now on Full Custom Garage, Master Metalman Ian Roussel does the unthinkable.
I got a show car, and it's just not up to par.
Ian's got a plan and brings together the A-team to make it happen.
I think this is gonna really get taken to the next level.
What other level are we talking about?
You don't get this at your local auto parts store.
Yes!
Everything inside me just freaks out. A bubble top. Are you kidding me?
This is really how I want to work, working with an artist, trying to translate his drawing into three-dimensional reality. That's what we're building.
Awesome.
It's way more challenging than just restoring a car.
And then another heavy hitter joins the team.
There's a new kid on the block. Dude. I called in Eric for a reason.
This is the zone. This is the Super Bowl right here.
He likes the crazy, so he's come to the right place.
But as the guys get into it, things don't go as planned.
I'm looking at it and I'm like, that's gonna be hard to make.
And now I see this little bit of fear in his eyes, and I'm like, oh man, now what did we get ourselves into?
I am here. This is my car. We are going forward.
You'll hear all this banging and clanging and bending and like, and then he comes back over. All right, we're good, we got it.
We're raising the bar now.
I'm seeing this as probably the biggest challenge in my career. Called up my friend Johnny Jalopy. I've got a new car project I'm starting, and I really need his help.
Hey, what's up, man?
You returned.
I returned.
Howdy.
I don't really know what the heck I'm doing here, but I'm expecting to walk in and see some old car or some sort of parts laying on the ground, kind of the way he always starts a build, and there's nothing there. So I'm like, okay, what's going on?
Been a while.
Yeah, what's up?
Well, you know, after that crazy car we finished last time,
Right?
I was thinking I gotta have you on board. Thank you. I was thinking I gotta have you on board for another project.
Okay.
Man. I really want Johnny to come back to the shop. We collaborated on a project about a year ago. Johnny drew this really radical cartoon hot rod Volkswagen thing, and I knew I could build it. I got a plan, but I'm gonna need Johnny's artistic talent to move forward on this new project.
What's up?
Well, I got something under that cover, and I want to talk to you about it.
Ah, what's under the cover?
This car's been sitting here in the corner of the shop for a while now.
So as he starts to slowly pull the tarp off, there sits the Space Junkie. This iconic, badass car that Ian has created.
I've seen it in pictures.
So, exactly.
Holy cow, man.
So it's kind of in deep, cold storage. It hasn't gone anywhere in years.
And you want to change it. What could you possibly want to do to it?
Well, let's pull it out and give it the once-over. This car is a 1931 Chevy. It's a radical departure from your restoration and even more from your typical show car. This was a really intense build for me. It was really a workout on my skill level regarding bodywork and fabrication, and I'm ready to change it up. Like anything else, you get used to looking at it, and that's why I wanted some fresh inspiration, because I think you got what it takes to bring it to the next level.
You're talking, obviously you can't, it's definitely chopped as much as you could chop something, and it's stretched as much as I could think you'd want to stretch something. So what are you thinking, like new wheels or another paint job on it? Or?
I want it to be completely revamped, not just a simple paint job. I mean, all the way.
You're not satisfied with
I'm not satisfied.
It's got to be different.
That's exactly it.
And he's like, yeah, no, I'm done with the whole thing. There's some cool things about it I like, but for the most part, I'm kind of over it. And I'm still like, how can you be over? I'm not over it. I'm still kind of in shock, like, I don't know where we're going with this.
I can't imagine what we could do to make it cooler than it already is, but I'm in.
I've got Johnny here, and I'm slowly easing him into the idea of redoing Space Junkie. My background is in VWs, and the way that car is put together is it's like a rolling chassis with a body capped on it. So I built this car in that same vein. The nose detaches independently from the body, but they both lift off the chassis that is completely drivable without either. I mean, first of all, let's just take the spinners off. Spinners from the start were a gimmick. It was something to make people laugh. It was kind of cheesy. It was a direct reflection of the whole trend of the spinners at the time. It didn't start the trend I thought it would, so.
You thought it was gonna really take off and you were gonna start taking some orders?
I mean, come on. It's a 100-year-old wood spinner. It's like, it's wood, you hear that? It's freaking awesome. Spinners are just the tip of the iceberg. So this nose is undone. It kind of shifts up and forward. Let's take it off. The nose of the car is very easy to remove. 4 bolts, and that really reveals the work that's gone into the chassis and suspension. So see, look what's going on under there. There's
Even that looks cool.
That's what I'm saying. There's a whole different story. I mean, now look at the engine. What a freaking wild setup.
Holy cow.
You don't get it with the hood on.
Dude, look at all this detail that was really kind of hidden. I get what you're saying now, that it really kind of hit some coolness in it.
He spent time and made these really cool body panels for this car, but the true talent of Ian is all the stuff that was covered, the whole chassis work and the way the front suspension's set up and all these really cool, intricate details that he had done were all hidden underneath his body. You know, I'm thinking, and he obviously was thinking when he built it, here's the cool part of the car.
So how much time did you have in this, Ian?
I mean, I've worked on this car for over 5 years. Not full time, but every minute I could give it. So that's why it's so developed. It's a pretty good accomplishment. I can't wait to take it apart.
So it makes all the sense. 5 years of your labor of love. Let's just toss it.
Toss it, man. Once I pull this body off, I'll be able to explain my plan to Johnny. The whole deal was, from my thought process, I wasn't really leading you on until you saw it like this. I think we're working with this part, not that part.
That's comforting, because I'd hate to see you cut that apart.
That's a keeper. This is what we're gonna freak out on.
Okay.
From the start, I could see the concern in Johnny's eyes. You know, he doesn't want to cut this car up, and I kind of don't want to either. So seeing that it's a blank slate is a great relief, and I could see he's starting to think good stuff.
You literally put anything on this.
That's what I was thinking, man. Or just start fresh.
When he pulled the body off of the car and there's this chassis just sitting there, my wheels started spinning. I'm like, oh wow, there's so many things you could do with that. So I'm like, well, let me sit down inside the thing and kind of get my head moving. And so I sit down in the driver's position, and you know, I'm starting to see, oh, this is really cool. This could be anything.
I think I'm starting to get it, man.
Right, it's a bare slate. You can do whatever you want.
Absolutely.
So this is really where I thought you could start your brain work from, but I have one more piece that's gonna give you the hint. I think it's gonna tip the scales in my favor. That car will be a vague and distant memory. All right, so you don't get this at your local auto parts store. Check that out.
Yes.
He comes walking in, and it's a bubble. And everything inside me just freaks out. I'm like, oh man, a bubble top. Are you kidding me?
Dude, bubble top?
I made that other one with my friend, and what nobody knows is I made 8 of these, and this is the biggest one. I saved it for myself.
Dude.
Went on this bubble top adventure with my friend Victor. He's got a really radical bubble top T-bird. While we had the oven set up, we made a whole bunch of different sizes, and I got to keep the biggest one. This is what we're using. Let me put 2 sticks here. Let's put it on. Then you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yes. Okay.
We're raising the bar now. Some of the most iconic hot rods, you know, the Ed Roth built were bubble top cars. You know, this is amazing. I'm gonna get to be a part of something that could be crazy.
I got this bubble stored away for about a year. I've never seen it on the car, and now it's the time to check it out.
Look at that.
Dude. That's pretty ridiculous, huh? Right off the bat, we set it in place, and I knew these two were meant to be together. So, you have a chassis, you have your bubble, but wait, there's more. I got one more piece to this pie, one more slice to the puzzle, and that's these quarter panels from a Ford station wagon. It looks kind of loose now, but you see you got a pretty cool body line, and then the details of where the lights come in the back I thought was pretty neat.
Yeah.
So,
and it's got those cool, iconic little pod things in it.
Exactly.
And that goes on with the pods and the circles.
Right. My concept, as far as this project goes, has ended at this. That's why I wanted you to come by here.
Okay.
It's like you got your bare essentials and just roll with it, man, whatever you think. I'm up for the challenge of building whatever you can dream.
And bubble tops are my favorite.
Yeah, and that's a pretty substantial
Yes.
freaking dome.
The challenge is now we take all these 3 elements together and we come up with a cool design. I could probably pretty much put anything on paper, and the dude's capable of doing it.
I'm seeing this as probably the biggest challenge in my career. I'm like a prize fighter without the prize, waiting for his match. As soon as he lays down the drawing, it's on. Ever since we mocked this thing up yesterday, I can't stop thinking about the car. I'm hoping Johnny is as enthusiastic as I am. I really hope he did his homework.
You've got pictures.
Aha.
Actually, I didn't get a ton of sleep, and the car had been on my mind all night, so I had to get stuff down on paper. So the first drawing was like a real basic, not really adding a bunch of elements to make it drastically different, but taking all the pieces that Ian had said were the must-haves and putting them in there. But again, I added one crazy element because I couldn't help myself. It just wasn't as much me. So I popped out another rendering that was a little more radical. So I hope Ian likes them.
What's up, man?
I couldn't sleep.
Me neither.
We made a mistake by putting this together so quick. I can't stop thinking about this thing, man. It's like I want to get to work right away, but I wanted to see what you got going on.
Okay.
The first drawing he shows me is very representative of the parts we have, except there's some kind of a weird fin on top. I mean, what the heck is on the bubble here? It's like, what is that?
Crazy idea of this like Mohawk. You said take it to the next level.
That is, man. Right off the bat, this is exactly why I asked him to come here. You know, something I wasn't even thinking about. He's already got a line on it. I think that's a keeper. However that thing translates into the final product.
So Ian seemed to really like that first drawing, but I knew the second one had a lot more of me in it, and I was excited to show him that part.
And then that kind of popped in my head.
Dude, that's the move right there. Johnny's second drawing really nailed it. 3/4 front view, absolute proportion-wise, what I would consider, yes, that's exactly what I want. I'm freaking building that car. This is the keeper, dude. I think if you can put that Mohawk on that car, that's what we're building. From the start, this car was like inspired by a lakes racer, a very long wheelbase and low profile. And that was the difference in his second drawing. The first one was very tall and cartoony, and the second one just nailed it. It looked fast right off the page. So the whole thing with your drawing is, this height here is showing almost equal with the top of the dome. I'd say that the car would be no taller than this by the proportion of the drawing, wouldn't you think?
The roof of the Space Junkie was no higher than that, right?
Even lower, right? There was just enough room for the sunroof to coil up above this element, so it was probably about this tall.
So that is kind of proportion to kind of what I drew.
Ideally, yeah. We mocked up this bubble yesterday. It looked great because we had nothing to compare it to. As soon as I'm comparing it to Johnny's drawing, I could tell it's way too high profile. We got to remedy that. So I think we got to cut this bubble, man.
That's the most aggressive way to look to it.
As awesome as it is, we got to cut this thing.
A quick reaction to as soon as I showed him the drawing and the low cut bubble, he was like, we got to cut the bubble and see if that's going to work.
It's almost 10 inches.
It looks like if you're coming up with a hard measurement of 9, we could trim 8 inches off this safely and just take another look at it.
Which freaked me out.
Are you cool with cutting your big giant bubble?
Well, that's what we're here for, man. That's why I asked you to come here and do these concepts, because I'm open for the adventure. Let's cut this thing and see what we can do with it. I just cut apart my prize show car. A freaking piece of acrylic ain't no threat. To remedy this bubble, we're gonna cut it. Johnny and I settled on taking 8 inches out of this bubble. It's not really something I'm looking forward to doing, but it's gotta be done.
You just can't go down to the local auto parts store and grab another bubble. So now here he's talking about, cutting this thing down and making it smaller, which makes sense, but still I was super apprehensive and I don't know how we're gonna do this.
So, I got a delivery of all these sanding discs, and they measure 8 inch on the box.
No way.
Let's set them up. Typical machinist layout thing would say you have a base plate, you're gonna measure vertical, and then across to whatever it is you're gonna scribe on. And that's really what we're doing with the floor. We got a base plate, we got a couple risers, and a couple cross beams, and we're gonna trace off of that. This is high-tech stuff, baby. So the idea is, see, you have a bar, and it's always gonna be 8 inches all the way around.
So it's always at the same height.
Exactamento.
For me, I've drawn lots of stuff with straight lines, freehand, and I can pull a pretty straight line, but I'm going, man, thinking about trying to draw a straight line completely around that bubble and make it symmetrical was crazy in itself. But he was like, yeah, no problem. This is what we'll do.
It's pretty precise.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's freaking rocket science, baby.
That's awesome.
So that's a very big trim. Look how much less of a dome it is. The main reason I like this bubble because of its massive proportions. And just raising the bottom perimeter 8 inches shrunk it down almost in half, it seemed. You see how much plastic we're losing, you know? It's a very small bubble now.
Right.
I don't want to say a quarter's been taken off, but maybe it's a fifth of it taken off.
It definitely doesn't look as dramatic back here, but this is a lot of real estate.
Yeah. There's 2 things we're trying to accomplish, and that is fit it between the rear tires so we can have some body work in there, some steel, and make it as long as the chassis is from the firewall to the rear edge of the frame.
By cutting the bubble as small as we did, we had taken out the length of the bubble to ensure that real extended, long dragster look. We needed to keep the length.
So what if we took this
Oh, and raised
and
it.
did this? Then it's a very long, narrow bubble now.
I see. So you're almost changing the rake of the
Changing the
cut.
rake of the bubble, yeah. Let me draw a line on there. Let's see what we got.
Wow.
Yeah, it's totally different,
Look at
totally
that.
different dome. Well, once we got it marked, that's it. It's okay, we've made a decision. Now what do? Are we gonna stick it or are we gonna decide again? Give it one eyeball approval. If we mark it wrong and commit to a cut, you can't uncut it. It's very delicate. It's a one-time deal.
And now I see this little bit of fear in his eyes, and I'm like, oh man, now what did we get ourselves into?
The only way to figure it out is if we do it, right? So
Yeah,
it's like getting
I'm in.
married.
Let's do it.
You can't fake it.
At that point, I was like, you know what? I could either sit back and be afraid of it, or I'll follow along. You know, I'll put all my faith in Ian that he knows what the heck he's doing. And I was like, yeah, I'm in. Let's do this. Let's cut it. I got your back. So he starts going right into the bubble, and those first couple noises into the bubble, I'm like cringing. Oh man.
I was super focused on my work. A lot could go wrong, but I could feel there was tension in the air. It's nice to let your teammates know that you got this, that it's a sure thing, but that's not the case here. I told them we're gonna cut this thing, and I really have not done it this way, so hopefully it works.
He just kind of proceeds to pierce his way every couple of inches.
I was surprised to see how easily this thing cut. I was all the way around, and it's like, hey, it's showtime.
The cruncher.
I felt a disturbance in the force. So let's try this. Grab under. Raise up. Is that right? Lift up. Are you still attached there? And we can't put any torsional twist.
Boom.
Perfect.
Sure enough, he grabs one side, I grab the other side, and it pops right off. Super clean cut. It was crazy.
There it is, a smaller, better bubble. It was a relief to have that thing cut through without any issue, but the other point is moving it. We're gonna have to make a base plate for this to support it before we can put it on the car.
I want to see it, Ian. So let's not. Yeah,
I
let's
don't want to
put it on.
break it, my man.
I hear you.
That's what it's about.
Come on, let's do it.
My first thought was we have to reinforce this because we got through the first challenge. It could crack at any time. Johnny's so amped, he's saying he needs to see it now.
I'm like, forget that. Let's just put it on there. Ready?
If it breaks, it's your fault.
If he dies, he dies. I'm jonesing at this point. You know, we've gone this far. He's cut the bubble. I just want to see it on top of that chassis and see if we've made the right decision.
It's gonna be okay. Look at that, it's still too tall. We're getting there. We put it on and it was good, but I'm looking for great or even greaterer. So, looks good. We're gonna try one more thing. So I think the front of that bubble needs to come down right to the bell housing. That's just a simple little firewall I made. It's just sheet metal. It doesn't do anything structurally. This deal here,
Okay.
I think we can just cut this right off and we'll lay the bubble on the bell housing for now just to take a look at it.
So, cutting some more of the Space Junkie.
See, that's
Get
part
it out of here, it's old.
That's part of what I was leading you into too. We're actually never going back, Johnny. I gotta tell you, that car will never see this frame again. That's been the Grandmaster plan from the start. Well, Johnny's thinking we're still trying to salvage the opportunity to put that other body back on here. And I'm only thinking it's going forwards.
And I'm like, okay, now we're cutting up more of this iconic car, and he's got no problem with it.
All right.
It's my car, and I can do that if I want to. That's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, look at that now. Yeah. Dude,
That's pretty
sets it all
silly.
backwards, too.
Oh my goodness.
I think those are our proportions. Getting this thing on the chassis, you can see it fits now. It doesn't look like a big high bubble top thing. It's very slick. Even better than I thought it was gonna be. It's all about the feel of the ride, right? And that's the thing, I gotta get back in here and see if it's working. If your head's banging against the bubble, it ain't gonna be okay. If it's too close, if it feels claustrophobic, it ain't gonna work.
Oh, yeah.
No less room than the other ones. It's a yes or no thing. I am here, this is my car, we are going forward. I think I finally arrived, Johnny. We're in a good position.
That's pretty sick.
I don't even look at that car anymore. That car's nothing to me. Put a cover on it. Since we cut that ring off the bottom of the acrylic dome, it's very flimsy. So I just want to be sure it doesn't flex out of shape and crack. I got this wooden backboard that'll support it while it's on the car. So according to the schematics, I think we nailed this bubble thing.
Yeah, I agree. I even think the height that we have up on the bubble area, too,
It works.
compared to that it's damn close.
You know, the real world parameters of the arch on the top of this bubble are obviously taller than your drawing.
Right.
But the attitude line of that rake coming
Definitely
in,
there.
it's aiming right at the front spindle, and that's the attitude of the car.
Yep.
I think we nailed it. Let's do some metal work. We're trying to make this tire appear as big as possible, you know, up over the edge of the quarter panel, and that's really it. Just cut and trim until it looks right. So we're close. We gotta take this whole wheel arch off now, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good starting point.
Immediately putting it on the body, it really started to define that flying arrow that we were looking for. But the body panel only goes up to about half of the chassis, and there's this whole other part that needs to be filled in. But ENC's pretty confident that that's not that big of a deal.
So this is pretty much drawing in space. You do the thing with your magic markers on the paper. I do the same thing with steel bars and aluminum bars on the cars. The whole deal here is kind of giving the nod to Johnny's design. So I asked him to get down and figure it out with the tape, you know, what lines are you seeing here? I do this all the time, so Johnny's first try at this worked out pretty well.
As we put up the tape lines, we could really see that the stretch of the car is super exaggerated, way more than I even envisioned in the first drawing.
This is really the point I knew we were going to be challenged because, you know, in a perfect world, everything would be art, right?
So, yeah, I just draw it and it's done.
Just there. So I think that's being the cue, style-wise, of how we're going to take this thing and represent that feeling. It's obviously going to be like that drawing was pulled and stretched.
Right.
So I think we're going to have to stretch all those lines to kind of give it the same vibe.
I'm digging where it's going.
Yeah,
It's really starting to evolve.
Yeah, for sure. That's the thing. I wasn't thinking dragster at all until we took this body off, and now all of a sudden you could see it is. It's like a slingshot dragster show car bubble thing.
And the next thing I know, he whips out a picture.
See, the whole thing I was thinking about now, and looking at this, it's starting to represent more like the dragster feel, you know? This is like a hot rod, but stretched out, and that's exactly what's happening here. So somehow, you know, the proportion has to mimic.
Kind of the way this is wedging.
Yeah, right, it's a total wedge, you can see.
I'm digging it. And then we really start comparing that photo with my drawing, and then here comes the next challenge.
Anything goes at this point if you can come up with a concept for that missing piece of the body.
Well, I got my stuff here. I could...
Yeah, I mean, whatever you can think. I'm gonna cut that other corner panel and get it mocked in place. Let that be a little flavor in the stew. I got the artist in the house. I might as well just keep him working.
Through this whole journey, you know, Ian's kind of played this whole game of ping pong with me, where he comes up with an element and then he's like, what do you got? So it's interesting to be working on his level or playing in his game, and going back and rehashing the same design over and over and over again and try to really get it down to a defined ending is totally different for me, but it's super exciting.
Johnny's getting busy doing his drawing. I'm gonna get busy doing the metal stuff. I wanna finish up these quarter panels and get them in place. That way we have a symmetrical look of what the whole back of the car is gonna be.
Nice.
Hey, here it is, baby.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so the back has got a pretty freaking cool look, man. Check that out.
That is badass.
So that's the thing. The rear is open for interpretation, but these quarter panels are a great freaking start.
Well,
It's pretty groovy.
I got a little something for you, too.
Throw them on a plate.
Speaking of that.
So we were just having like the car show in the shop moment. And then it occurred to me that I'd asked him to do some drawing. So it's like, let's check out your last rendition.
So here's what I got.
Oh, wow. That's pretty freaking good. Where did you photocopy that from? Who drew that? That's freaking nuts, man.
So, you know, brought the body panel down. I still kind of left the spears in there.
Right.
With the lower look to it.
Yeah, love it.
Again, added the, you know, the Mohawk that you liked from the first drawing.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of extended out the outer fins.
Love it. Right. Everything's just a little bit more dramatic. Johnny really went off on this last rendering. He really put all the details he was conceiving. I love the fact that he put this giant aluminum fin across the bubble. We knew that, but he's got some wild ideas with the headlights. The front of the body has some vents incorporated in it. I've never seen anything like it. That's why I want to build it, because this thing's far out. Dude, I like that better than all of them so far. So I hate to keep asking you to draw stuff, but you see what it's developing into, man. It's freaking amazing.
Nothing's cooler than, you know, being some guy that just draws a bunch of doodles to get to be a part of something as big a scale as this. When he said, hey, I need some help, I didn't expect it to be like this. Well, man, I hate to say it, but I gotta head home. I wish I could stay longer and help you.
What are you talking about? You mean you have a day job?
Yeah, I gotta get back to the day job.
Johnny's time has been short and sweet. He nailed this concept, and now all I gotta do is build it. Thanks for doing the hard part, man.
Thanks for letting me come and be a part of it.
Right on. Johnny Jalopy had to hit the road, but there's a new kid on the block. I called up my friend Eric. He was on board to come by and check it out. He walks in, and I think he's a little startled. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for the invite.
Right on.
What,
What? You act like you've never seen this type of thing before.
when I came in and I saw it, it was like, okay, the gravity of it kind of spread apart, just bits and pieces here and there. It's, you know, it's a little like, what did you do?
Just collaborating with Johnny on all the potential this car could have made me think I gotta redo everything. I pulled the engine out because I want to freshen up the paint on the frame, pulled the wheels and the hubs off. Everything needs a little once-over, freshen up. Eric walks in the middle of this strange disassembled state.
I'm almost kind of glad I wasn't here to see it being unbolted. It's kind of like pulling apart Frankenstein's monster. And okay, we're gonna make a cooler version, but you don't want to be in the room when, you know.
So this is kind of what Johnny comes up with right off the bat. So he's thinking like slingshot, dragster, bubble top show car thing.
I'm ready.
Yeah, we're sitting there messing around, right, mocking stuff up, and he goes back to the drawing board and he comes up with this ridiculous aluminum Mohawk fin thing across the top.
Dude, this is gonna be sweet. There needs to be more bubble tops in the world.
Just like calling in Johnny, I called in Eric for a reason. He has a background in building crazy stuff.
I never wanted to have the same kind of car. I always went to the next thing or something different. I cut up a perfectly good 65 Thunderbird and built my own version of the baddest bubble top I could possibly think of at the time. It's the iron lung bubble top.
It's pretty freaking far out. I'm not that easy to impress, and that guy impressed me.
It took me about 4.5 years to build. I wanted to build something that looked the part back then, but just something a little more current or just different. Just break away from the mold of it all.
He built a bubble top before I built a bubble top, so I think this is gonna really get taken to the next level. As soon as Eric got here, we got right to work. First, I wanted to frame out the structure for the body panels.
Basically, you need to have a squared structure and figure out, how you place these, because if one's off by an inch, when you go start tying things together, you're gonna be off by a mile.
I wanted to get this set up so we could focus on creating the rest of the body. Any concerns? You think it's gonna be all right?
No, I'm good. The gear drive is just buzzing away like a blower belt. Being able to work with somebody that, like Ian, that has this talent, I'm excited to see what happens tomorrow, and I can't wait for it, This is something cool.
It's gonna be all right. Today we got right into it. Had a lot to accomplish. I wanted to see the front of this thing fleshed out. We're trying to avoid this generic shape that the rear quarter panels offer us. I want to taper them in, try to follow the contour of the acrylic bubble.
So Ian has this idea that we're gonna do these slices into the quarter panels to kind of try to draw things in. I'm a little skeptical of it, just simply because you're trying to curve something. The metal does not want to go that way. We only have 2 of these quarter panels. We can't go out and find another 59 Ford Ranch wagon for quarter panels if we screw this up.
I have Eric on the mission of modifying what's already in place, and I'm going to create what isn't in place. There's a series of bends that I need to make for the front cowl area, and it's pretty complicated. The way that these quarter panels are created, it was like a big stamp, bang, one-shot perfection. I don't have that capacity, so I'm gonna have to make these in a number of different shapes. So I'm comparing each contour to different parts on the original fender, and I know how I'm gonna piece them together somehow.
So I get all the slices done on both sides. We start to pull it in, and it works. It's funny, it's just a big piece, so you're looking at it and you're like, yeah, after we slice this, cut here, bend this, twist that, it will be perfect. This is an important piece simply because if it's off, the front of the body will not match. Once this is set up, there's other pieces that go into the cowl that everything has to be cut in a certain way that it has to match. So this again is another piece where if the foundation is not square on both sides, you can't get the perfection that you're looking for. It's big trouble.
The easy thing is making one side. The more challenging part is duplicating it in a mirror image for the other.
So Ian comes in and he's like bending metal and panels and cutting this and cutting that. And as I'm doing my thing, he just keeps kind of coming over my shoulder and like, think, yep, no, here, hold that, wait a minute, mark that. Like he'll leave and you'll hear all this banging and clanging and bending and like, and stuff screeching, and then he comes back over and over my shoulder and here, all right, we're good, we got it. He's like, all right, weld it up and we're good. Look at that line. That is
Everybody's
just,
always critiquing.
that is years of
You should see what I do with the other guys.
unsurpassed talent.
The other guys that work in the shop, sometimes it's like a freaking football playbook. I think Eric's a consummate professional, and I got the wild style going behind his back. He doesn't know what's going on. Maybe he thinks I'm not working up to my capacity, but this is how I roll.
He has a certain style and a certain way to finesse his equipment to do what he wants. And it's entertaining to say the least.
We got about that much, and then it gets bigger. Look at that much. Then it gets bigger. Holy moly, we're getting good at this. We're both standing back and looking at it, and it occurs to me that Eric hasn't seen this thing mocked up. Johnny and I set up with the fenders and the bubble on, and I think it's time to show him what's happening. Totally fits. That's pretty ridiculous. I can't say that I've ever seen one like this. That's pretty
No,
weird.
I want to see the holy Mohawk on it. With the bubble on it and the body panels going, it's starting to really take shape, and it's amazing.
The front is looking perfect, man. I couldn't have imagined it better, but now we have to imagine a better rear section. The rear portion of the car is a blank slate. Eric's got a couple ideas. He's not talking, so I guess we'll see what develops. Eric was holding out on his concept for the rear, so I finally asked him what he's been thinking.
All right, while you're in a good mood,
Yes.
open to ideas, I have an idea for this. What if we were to maybe dish this in
Right.
and do a radiator, since I like doing the pod things with the headlights and the grills kind of thing. What if we did a pod for the radiator and had it separate and exposed, like show the mechanicals of it, but do like a case for it?
I like that idea. So it's almost like the engine is like a piece of jewelry in the front.
Yes.
And the radiator is another
Is the
one
piece in the back.
hanging out of the back.
Yeah.
I'm totally down for that.
All right.
This is a complete blank slate at this point. I am open to suggestion, and the more outrageous it gets, the better. It's not something I would have thought of, but I like the idea a lot.
So do I earn my supper for this evening?
Yes, I think you're gonna get a gold star on the refrigerator
Cool, man.
for today's efforts.
My mom will be so happy.
Yeah.
I told him my idea, and he was like, yes. And then almost instantaneously, he's like, I got some stuff that can do, I'll be right back. Just give me a minute.
I have a lot of stuff. So he says he wants some kind of a concave surface, and I think I got just the thing. Well, I was looking for this, but then I saw that. This is a good start. It's about the dimensions we're working with. This is what we need. My television provider no longer carried my show, so I took down the utility apparatus from the top of the roof, and I had this dish.
And he comes back in here.
I got some stuff. Found a radiator. Ooh. I think it's a Ford Mustang, and I found a dish. You were asking for a dish shape.
I totally think he took a ladder, climbed up on his roof, and stole a satellite dish. This is perfect.
Concave shape, right?
This is perfect.
And it's
Yeah.
steel.
Oh,
It'll
man.
be perfect.
This is like the perfect shape, and he comes in, and we kind of set it in place. I'm like, we're totally putting a satellite dish on the back of this car.
Satellite dish on a car, that makes no sense at all, but it works. The thing was mainly that it fit the car. It's gonna be modified, but this shape is a keeper. It's just gotta take the paint off and tack weld it on.
So we get it on the car, and we got it where we want it. And now the trick is to make it not look like a dish welded to the back of a car.
I'm thinking we just need to put something in place, start to get a feel for the dimensions of this, and I'm gonna make a simple roll pan for the back of the car. Just throw it in the sheet metal brake and roll it. Once we got the pan on, we took the body off just to get a better look at it. So the big question is, how does this transition from our fabricated part into the satellite dish? That's what I'm wondering. You know what, maybe let's make the top first, because you could see the old line right here. The way these things here from the factory, I'm digging them. So, this is just a line. I was thinking a tube shape with a nice round edge, not just coming only straight across, but coming back and down.
Yeah.
The whole thing was just to get some line in place. You use this round tube, and I just create kind of a shape, but I'm thinking like a V shape. It kind of tapers down. Something that'll just give a landing point to whatever sheet metal we put in place. I'm building out the back of this car with these strips just because we're trying to move fast. This car's gonna have a lot of fiberglass, a lot of filler on it, so I'm just creating a surface. It's very simple. We're not getting too crazy with it. We're gonna put in a series of strips, trim them to fit, and then weld everything together. The whole thing is just standing back and checking it out. There's still a lot of loose ends, but you could see that the dish was the right call. It's a great centerpiece, and nobody's gonna know what happened. Yeah, so I'm real happy with this contour. Just the way you're seeing the mimicking reflection of this and this, but it's set in. That's exactly what I was hoping for.
Yeah. It's the makings of a fine bubble top.
So, Eric's gotta hit the road. All good things must come to an end.
This has been like hot rod summer camp. And it was really neat to meet somebody else in this universe that gets this stuff and gets these things and like it doesn't matter the work, the time frame, just that it's gotta be the best that it could be. And the ideas are just, the possibilities are endless.
It was really great having Eric here. He brought a lot of great ideas to the project, and I'm inspired to take this thing all the way.
Next time on Full Custom Garage, Master Metalman Ian Roussel continues the transformation of his wild show car.
I had a t-shirt when I was like 15 that said normal is boring. This car, it's gotta follow suit. Sky's the limit.
Ian gets some help from an old friend, and the ideas keep flowing.
It started with Johnny Jalopy, continued with Eric, and now Mark's here. So it is all about the collaboration.
I brought you some stuff.
Cool.
Is he gonna like it? Is he not gonna like it?
Whoa, that thing is nuts.
With the car taking shape, Ian heads out on the hunt for parts.
I'm building a Roth-style bubble top.
Now that you mentioned that bubble top, let me show you something.
He's like, you gotta come inside. This thing is like a snapshot of heaven.
Back in the shop, things don't go as planned.
Stepping back and looking at the car, it's just not good. There's something terribly wrong.
He's got his vision, he's got the drawing to consider, but if it's not aesthetically the way he wants, then it's not gonna happen.
There's one final element that's gonna seal the deal. People start to wonder, how the heck did that happen?
So Ian, you better send me photos, you better keep me updated, I better get a Christmas card. And other than that, man, keep trucking on now.